Another session. Eleni, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You know me, you know my background. So payments has like a very personal, crypto stablecoin payments is a very personal, just place in my heart. So excited to dive into what you're working on. I'm just personally a huge fan of Loop. I know you've been in this game for many years. Why don't we start with, for those who are joining us live right now, just who might be meeting you for the first time, your name, your intro, and then a little bit about Loop as we get started as it relates to, we're big fans of stablecoins here. So as I know you guys don't only do stablecoins, but as stablecoin native as you want to make this, that would be great.
Yeah. So I'm Eleni. I'm one of the co-founders of Loop Crypto. We've been helping merchants accept crypto payments for the last 3.5 years. But what you said is probably exactly right, where 98%, I think, of our transactions are actually in stable coins.
Oh
So
my
most,
goodness. That's
and it's
wild.
even when merchants offer the ability to pay in other tokens, consumers are picking stable coins. And so it really has proven to be the way that value is transferred on blockchains.
When did this give us a little bit of perspective and history on that number? Like it probably wasn't always that way. How is the kind of the method of payment or the payment vehicle crypto wise? How has that evolved in the last 3 years? You probably have an interesting vantage point seeing what you're seeing on the back end.
Yeah, when we got started, our our viewpoint and our sort of premise was that if value accrues on chain, you're going to want to spend it. And 3.5 years ago, when we got started, a lot of that value was in more native tokens like ETH. And over the last, few years, especially in the last year, we've seen customers pay overwhelmingly in stablecoins. And I think that largely has to do somewhat with the rise of L2s. So you can think of maybe ETH as the layer that folks stored value on. So they hold a ton of ETH on Ethereum. But when they move to Base or I know Solana's not an L2, but a fast network like Solana, I think they were more willing to embrace a stablecoin and use that stablecoin to pay. And so it's been this sort of confluence of events of cheap networks, rise of stablecoin liquidity, and then obviously most recently regulation around stablecoins that has really led to it taking off as a form of payment.
Yeah, I'm in the report. You're quoted specifically that you're seeing e-commerce AI tools and a range of B2B applications take the lead in adopting this payment option. We actually just got off with Mento Labs, and they're really innovating within this fiat specific fiat based stable coins, non US and non US. I think they said they have around 15 of these now in existence. As you all think about doing what you just said for merchants across these different use cases globally, um, I'd love to just maybe tie some of these bows together with like someone like Mento Labs. Like, are you saying, on the back end, you might work with a group like that or a system like that to actually help settlement happen in a euro backed way or a local fiat backed way for merchants?
Yeah, I can definitely see that happen. If you're a merchant, sitting in South Africa and at the end of the day you need to pay your bills in South African rand, or someone's using an application where they expect, like the customer expects, to hold a balance in South African rand, you're trying to minimize that price exposure. And so immediately swapping into a stablecoin lets you fix in the amount that you get without having to wait for banking rails, like the actual fiat settlement. Um, so I think I don't know if we're there yet because part of the problem is putting all the pieces together. Like you do now need off ramps that support every stablecoin currency, but I can see a future for sure where that is needed.
Give us a little window into the payer and the checkout experience on Loop today, or what the core windows of the user experience look like. I know you guys have had some really interesting kind of product evolutions and different things that you've been charging forward with. Like I remember like recurring payments was a really interesting part of the journey. Like speak a little bit about to the different payment experiences that you guys are seeing is really interesting, and Yeah, exactly. Kind of how that takes shape for the payer and the merchant on the back end.
Yeah. So our viewpoint is that, stable coins or crypto payments need to act like any other payment method in a merchant system. And so what that means to us is when a customer comes either to one of our components, or you can just like totally white label our APIs and SDK and use your own front ends. We want to give that payer the ability either to make a direct payment where they send the money straight to the merchant's wallet, but on the back end, we're saving this customer paid with this wallet on this chain. Here is their preference, so that the next time they come back to you, we can show them exactly the payment method that they use, which is an experience that we have today that I think people take for granted, where if you go and check out on Shopify with your credit card, when you come back, Shopify either has that credit card stored for you or knows your preferred payment method. So the other version of this is actually giving approval from that wallet. So not only can you save, I like paying with X wallet, but you can save and this merchant is allowed to charge that wallet without me having to take an action. And that functionality unlocks really cool features like recurring payments, the ability to top up, the ability to charge a customer based on usage, as well as what we like to think of as like an app experience. Like if you think of a ride sharing app, I mean, what do? You save your payment method on file, you go take a ride, and then everything happens sort of in the background. It gets charged and you just walk out the door. And our tech really unlocks those type of experiences in a way that I think other payment providers don't.
Yeah, it's so cool. Um, yeah, when we say crypto payments or like stablecoin payments, it's so broad that it's almost like, all these different use cases and how the stuff comes to market is so diverse in terms of what the core infrastructure that you have been building for so long, how that can sort of take shape. So it's always fun to kind of see how this is continuing to evolve and get more dynamic over time. With the Uber use case, for example, would you say something? I mean, that was always kind of like the golden the golden light that you were following. Like that is such a complex signing, custody. It's a very complex thing to actually enable that type of Uber-like experience. One, is that available today? Like if I'm building an Uber on chain, like could I work with Loop to do that, or does that still feel a little like, are there still a couple pieces missing? And then maybe speaking of dynamic, like where does dynamic, if at all, fit into something like that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's 100% possible today. We actually made a demo video that I made using AI. So I used Cursor. It was actually pretty fun to like implement our own product and not being technical myself to be able to know enough to get it up and running, where you can connect a wallet, give that authorization so that you can charge the wallet in the future. And then the next step from that is that the great thing about our tech is you can choose between what type of payment method you want to charge that customer. So if they want to take one ride with a credit card and the next ride with their crypto wallet, that should feel very seamless and sort of just happen totally on the back end. In terms of like where Dynamic comes, so there are wallet providers. So anyone who connects their crypto wallet to one of our applications goes through the Dynamic flow. So they're able to authenticate to prove that they own that wallet, and then attach, the payment method again through Dynamic.
It's really cool. And then the authentication and the sort of connective tissue is where Loop comes in between the merchant on the receiving end, the payment experience within the payer end, but the wallet infrastructure and balances and connectivity on the front end or from the wallet side is coming in with dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Really
there
cool.
are hundreds of wallets that any user could pay with, and Dynamic does the hard work of making it so we just have one endpoint to deal with, opposed to having to integrate with every single wallet. And then on the Loop side, we do the work of making sure that that wallet pays you, the merchant, in a token that you want to accept on a network that you're willing to get paid on, without them messing up, right? They can't send you the wrong amount. They can't send it to the wrong address. Like we make sure that that experience is seamless.
Yeah. And the page that you guys are highlighted on this research report, it's talking about key use cases where stablecoins excel. There are 5 of them that are listed. I'm going to say all 5 of them, and then you tell me which ones spark interest in terms of, Loop specifically. So you have cross-border payments, real-time settlements, micropayments, tokenized access, and composability with other apps. When you think about those and the ideal customer profiles or the use cases that something like Loop enables, any kind of eyebrow raises for any of those specifically?
Yeah, I mean, definitely cross-border payments. The work that we had done for the report was we went back to our merchants and we asked them for data on uh, how many countries are they accepting payments from in just fiat, so outside of crypto, and then how many countries, well, we had the data of how many countries they were accepting payments in crypto. And what we saw is that merchants accepted payments from consumers in twice as many countries when they had enabled crypto. And there was, I believe it was 8.5% of their sales were from countries that they only accepted crypto. Like someone had only paid in crypto, someone hadn't paid in fiat at all. And I think the thing that folks tend to find a little surprising about the cross-border payment example is it is Western countries, like more developed countries as well. So our top 10 countries include like the Netherlands, Germany, Hong Kong, Brazil, Mexico. Um, it really runs the gamut. And I think merchants are seeing stablecoins as a way to go global from day one. I would say that the next thing is the real-time settlement. It relates to how merchants really care about cost. And if you're getting your funds faster, it means that you're able to operate the rest of your business faster, right? Time is money. And so that real-time settlement for both an FX question, right? If you're able to swap immediately into your native currency, then you've hedged that FX risk, but also from a liquidity perspective, right? If you're able to actually get the income and not have to wait 3 days to settle, I mean, that could mean the world for someone's business.
Yeah. Yeah, there's such an interesting stack here that's being developed with Loop. Obviously, my mind goes to like Arculus and Rain and the CoinFlow team and all of these really interesting payment, like stablecoin native payment layers that are helping this settlement, real time settlement happen. How do you think about, in my mind, if I'm a merchant, right, like kind of going into this next phase, it would be so cool to have a balance or an ability to receive payments instantly, give my maybe team members on payroll, integrate Loop for stuff like that, give them cards where they can spend these stable coins. Like, have you thought how are you thinking about, I guess, the card related stuff? I know a lot of traditional PSPs, Square, PayPal, Clover, Fiserv, like these big payment companies often will roll out these kind of business cards or banking credit cards connected to those merchant acceptance accounts. Have you thought about that? And yeah, is that something
Yeah.
that we can think through?
I mean, we really think over the long term. And if you think about global payments, it's something like Visa and MasterCard do about $25 trillion, just these two payment methods every year. And Stripe does 1 trillion. So it's a
Wow.
massive market when you think of even massive companies that have such a small sliver. And so anything that gets the merchant or the consumer comfortable with this new payment method is a net positive in our opinion. And our view is over the long term, merchants and consumers will gravitate towards the cheapest option. And that journey may be going through how do you build trust with this new payment method. And so I think we've seen that play out where, it started off with the stablecoin sandwich. I don't want to I'm going to have the least amount of exposure to stable coins and just go on and off. But we've seen that evolve into treasury management. How do I now hold a balance in a stable coin because I'm comfortable with this new rail? And as part of like a merchant journey, right? I think for the consumer, there's something similar happening where, you maybe enter on an exchange, you just want to buy Bitcoin or ETH, and then you go and now you're more comfortable sending a friend a stable coin to, pay off a balance or as a remittance to your family in another country. And so our bet is that sort of the future will gravitate towards the lowest cost, easiest, fastest solution, and that is a crypto native payment, and that's what we're building for.
Yeah. How do you think about sort of a two-sided question? Like the payments industry is such a, at least historically, you think about Visa, MasterCard, PSPs, it's all about like taking a sliver when value is going from point A to point B. I send you money, like the payment company is going to take a little sliver. I believe that's sort of a part of the existing monetization of Loop. Like if what you're saying is true, which I believe it is as well, is like costs are going lower, payments are going lower. The cost of moving money around is becoming really reduced. How do you still think for the business, the main commercial center will live within that kind of processing feast type of world now with like so much margin to work with? Or are you thinking about other ways to introduce new revenue centers because stablecoins are involved? Like, how do you think about that? I know I'm like giving
Yeah.
you probably venture capital trauma right now, but like, I'm wondering how you think about that.
Yeah. We think of the payment isn't the solution. We think of it as you win the right to do the payment. And from talking to merchants, what we found is the hard part isn't like having stablecoins show up in my wallet, right? Because I can just send you a stablecoin and it's there. The hard part is how do I have this new payment method fit in with everything else that I do, with my accounting, with my application that requires like webhooks and knowing that the customer paid, with the experience that I want to provide to that customer when they take a ride in, an Uber. And so our viewpoint is as long as we can build the tools around solving the operational challenges of a business, then we win the right to do the payment. And I think if you look at a lot of these payments companies, I mean, again, Stripe is like a great example. They started off as a pure payment processor, just, put this little widget and do a checkout. But what they built on top is all the other services that a merchant really needs to operate day to day. Things like being a merchant of record in other countries where they can accept payments, or calculating the usage based costs of someone who maybe has like an AI SaaS product, or really helping with fraud and smart routing. And so these are just additional operational challenges that they're solving. And by solving those challenges, folks use their payment processing, right? And so we think of we think of building a great payments company from a lot of the same purview. And our one value prop is not just the payment. And so the one way we'll monetize is not just the payment, because I do agree that margins tend to come down, and the way you survive there is by being able to offer additional services that others can't because you're able to do that payment. And so we focused on, like, we have this integration with Stripe where you can do what I just described. You can sort of tack us into your Stripe account. It's, very simple. It's basically a click of a button. And then we become your crypto payment processor within Stripe. And that's because the size of the merchant who's willing to like embrace stablecoins today, is a lot smaller than, like, we've yet to see a Spotify say like, yes, I'm going to have stable coins, but we're building to sort of move in that direction to be able to serve a larger customer that, wants all these bespoke features and has like a much longer sales process than we would like, at this stage in our product development.
That's awesome. Cool. This was fun. It's always awesome to catch up with you on the state of things, what you're learning. I see you, Jeff, and the team just all over the place, just continuing to do the work. And eat the glass and continue to
Yeah.
grind in a productive direction. Any final thoughts as it relates to the research report, on-chain payments? Maybe a final thought here for those who are joining us on this session.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be the CEO if I didn't plug our own products. So my
Gotta plug
final
it.
thought, yeah, would be if you're interested in stablecoins at all, we just talk to companies all the time who want to explore the space. And, especially for those larger companies, it is a journey to understanding learning about stablecoins, and we're happy to be a resource, particularly for platforms. So I guess something we didn't plug is, we went live with a subscription management platform called OpenPay, and they serve a merchant, and so we serve the platform where they allow any of their merchants to accept crypto alongside credit cards natively within their system. And so if you're a platform sort of similar to an OpenPay that is thinking about, well, how do we let our merchants enable crypto payments? Like, we would love to talk to you.
Interesting. So now you're going toward like empowering other PSPs or merchant platforms with this type of rail natively. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to the going up the scale of the size company you're serving. It's like a platform wants to know that their merchants want it. So if you land merchants, you prove to the platform that merchants want it. And then it's just sort of a back and forth, right? You land merchants, platforms, merchant platforms.
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, Lenny, this was fun. Yeah, thanks again for the time. This was a fun session.
yeah, thank you so much. It's nice to catch